All right, we're ready to begin our next assignment, and we're working on section 2-3.5, which is the difference between a relation and a function. The three review questions for our applications from Unit 1, they took 30 minutes for folks who didn't get help, so watch the video and you'll see how to do them. The average time for this lesson is 50 minutes for folks who didn't get help, and this is the 15th easiest lesson in the course. All right, here we go. Question 2. As I said, this is a review question, and it's a percent application. Find last year's salary if after a 2% pay raise, this year's salary is $32,640. So L is, oops, I gotta stop this. So L is last year. That's what we want. Last year plus 2% of last year. Now some people just say 0.02, but it's 2% of last year is $32,640. Well, if you add, this is like 1 last year, so 1.02 last year, which when you think about it, here's the whole pie, you add 2% to it, you have 102%, is $32,640. Divide both sides by 1.02, and you get 32,640 divided by 1.02 is $32,000. So last year is $32,000, which makes sense because last year should be smaller than this year. All right, number 3, another time where we can make, where we can make our chart. Kim Falgott's daughter Madeline had a piggy bank with 73 coins in it. Okay, so the total number of coins is 73. They aren't going to have a value, but we do know the total amount that they're worth is $24.25. Some are quarters, which are worth 25 cents, and some are half dollars, which are 50 cents. And it says, so this will be 73 minus the quarters. So this is 0.25Q. This is 73 times 50 cents is $36.50 minus 0.5Q. So add those two together, we get $36.50 minus 0.25Q, and those two are equal. So we have 24.25 equals $36.50 minus 0.25Q. Subtract $36.50 from each side. So we have 24.25 is $12.25. Negative is negative 0.25Q. Divide both sides by 0.25 negative. And we get Q is 49. So there are 49 quarters, which means there are 24 half dollars because they have to add up to 79 or 73. 49, and what did I say? 24? 24. 24. Number 4. It says if Debbie took 5.4 hours to drive to her mother's house on Thursday morning, on her return trip on Friday, the traffic was heavier, so it took 6 hours. In this case, we only need two things since these two distances are going to be equal. So if you have one of those there and backs, you don't need a 3x3 box, you only need a 2x2. Rate, time, distance. The time, let's call this one Thursday, and this one Friday is the rate. The time on Thursday was 5.4 hours. The time on Friday was 6 hours. So this is 5.4 t, because remember you multiply, and 6f. 5.4 t equals 6f. Her average speed on Friday was 5 miles per hour slower than on Thursday. Friday was 5 miles an hour slower than Thursday. Is Thursday minus 5. So we have, let's substitute instead of writing f, let's write t minus 5. So we have 5.4 t equals 6t minus 30. So let's add 30 to both sides. And let's subtract 5.4 t from both sides. And we get these cancel, these cancel. 30 equals 0.6 t. Divide both sides by 0.6. 30 divided by 0.6 is, so there, Thursday is 50 miles an hour. Thursday is 50. 50 minus 5 is 45. Let's check it. 50 times 5.4 is 270 miles. 45 times 6 is 270 miles. So Friday was 45 miles per hour. Okay. Now we're into functions. All right, the thing maybe it's time for some notes on functions. Let's write some notes here on functions. A function has each x, which is also called the domain, has only one range, y called the range. It's kind of like Jeopardy. There's only one correct answer for each question. We use function notation on our calculator. We always have them solved for one letter. Like a quadratic, we always solve for x. Okay, so we want to know the domain, the choices for x in this case. So the choices for x are 10, -1, 1, and 4. The ranges, the y's, are 2, -5, -1, and -8. Is it a function? For every x, is there only one y? Yes. Okay, let's look at the next one. For each, is this a relation? Is this a function? Okay, does each question have only one answer? Yes. Now, people might get confused because they see the answer 2 is listed twice. But you can have the same answer, you just can't have the same, each question having two different answers. Okay, next one. The domain, the choices for x are 15, 8, and 22. The ranges are 2 and 19. Okay? Is each question have only one answer? Yes. The answer is always 3. Just like when you're the mom and you say your answer is always no, right? So the domain is 4, 2, 0, and -2, and the range is always 3. All right, let's look at this one. What is the domain of this function? What are the choices for x? Well, it can go all the way from -infinity to +infinity. How about the y's? They also can go from -infinity to +infinity. Just about every line that's not vertical or horizontal is going to have a range and domain being from negative to +infinity. It is a function, and the way you can tell is the vertical line test. If you put a line any way through here, it only hits the line once. Oops. We want to... Okay, oops. Did I close that out? Let's go to... We must have one more part left. All right, next one. Decide whether the relation defines y as a function of x and give the domain. So, for each question, is there only one answer? In other words, each x that you put in here, do you only get one y? Yes, you do. The domain, what are the choices for x? X can be any number, so it'll be parentheses, oops, parentheses, -infinity to +infinity. And how about this one? All right, I have to draw this one because I want you to see that when you see the less than sign, you have to be careful. In other words, for each x, let's say x is 3. Well, what numbers make that less than 5? What can you put in for y? Well, you could put in 1 or 0. So is it a function? No, it's not, because you can have more than one y for each x. The domain is all real numbers, so parentheses, -infinity to +infinity. And, the fifth root of x. Is that a function? In other words, if you have a number, if you take the fifth root of it, do you get only one answer? And the answer is yes, you do. All right. And the domain, what are our choices for x? Well, if this is an even power, we can only go from 0 to infinity. But since it's an odd power, you can go from -infinity to +infinity. Let's try this one. Decide whether the relation defines y as a function of x. Okay, so for each question, is there only one answer? Yes, there is. All right. Is the equation of a function. So for each question, is there only one answer? Yes, there is. Okay. What is the domain? Now you have to be careful here, because the domain, this number, x minus 5, has to be greater than or equal to 0. So add 5 to both sides. X has to be greater than or equal to 5. So our notation will be 5, infinity, close parentheses, bracket, 5, infinity, close parentheses. All right, number 13, same kind of thing. We need to do a little bit of algebra first. Is it a function? Yes, it will be a function. So what is the algebra? Well, 1 plus 6x has to be greater than or equal to 0. Subtract 1 from each side. You get 6x has to be greater than or equal to -1. Divide by 6. X has to be greater than or equal to -1/6. All right, so in our function notation, we're going to be 1/6 to, no, not -1. Was it -1/6? Yeah, -1/6 to infinity. All right. Number 14. Is this a function? Well, for each question, there is only one answer. All right, and the domain can be all real numbers. So we would say, oops. Yeah, let's just try this and see. -infinity to infinity. All right, and decide whether the relation defines y as a function. For each question, is there only one answer? Yes. Now here's what's important, is that the denominator can't be 0. Okay? In other words, we can go from negative infinity up to 0 and from 0 to positive infinity. I guess it would be or from 0 to positive infinity. Let's try that sign. All right, and that's the end of the lesson. So if you have any questions, there you go. Give me a call.